All right, I'm gonna try again to see if I can figure out how to show you. You see that? Doesn't show up on the camera as well as it does in person, but you can kind of see a bubble here. I just took it out of the fridge. It's kind of like jiggly, like literally like Jello. See bubbles on the sides. Anyway, I'll let it sit out for a little bit to warm up. It's easier to work with. And then I'm going to divide it up into loaves to put in a loaf pan. Also for reference, this, after my stretch and folds, my 2 hours of stretch and folds, I just left it with the lid on it for 4 hours for it to get this size. It was filling about half of this container. And then 4 hours later, sitting out, it was at this size, just about. And then I put it in the fridge overnight. The fridge slows it down, but it'll have that nice sour flavor to it. Just a mild mild sour flavor. And then, like I said, I'll let it sit out for a little bit. But that's what it had. It had the whole overnight in the cold. And then also, I almost popped the lid off it this morning. And then it had the 4 hours it sat out on the counter in this as well. All right, this is probably the least pretty part. I have the equivalent of 4 loaves of dough in here. But I'm going to show you how I do it. I don't think I usually show you. I try to use my bench scraper, bench knife, whatever you want to call it, to cut it, which still isn't perfect because it likes to stick right back together. And you can see how nicely it pulls away from the side of the container. And then it's still going to be an ugly pour because I only want half of it out of here. Sometimes what I end up doing, because it just comes out, is, oh, look at that big bubble. I will have to pour all of it out and then cut it in half and put half of it back in here. So here, I'm going to show you the ugly part of this whole process. Yeah, it doesn't want to come apart. It wants to stay together. So here we go. Dump it all out. See, I pull it, and then cut it. This is how you know I'm not an influencer. I have no idea where that cut off. But then I got it cut apart. It all came out. I'm just dumping that back in the container. There you go. It's not super fragile. You can kind of mess with it. It's going to be fine because I have to shape it anyway. So, and I might throw that back in the fridge because I don't know that I'm going to bake that all today. But then I've got this whole blob here that I did dust my counter with some brown rice flour to make it a little bit easier to deal with. And then I just cut this in half to shape into loaves. And then this is nice because I can scoot all of my flour back into this area, kind of seal the ends. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes I dust it and sometimes I don't. The dough is pretty easy to work with regardless. Either way. All right, I'm gonna see if I can show you this. Let me scoot this back a little bit, see if I can show you. And then you do your best to kind of make a rectangle because it was in the fridge all night. It's pretty cold, so it doesn't want to stretch as nicely as if it were warm. Look at that big old bubble. Can you see that? I don't know if you can even see that. Huge old bubble. Anyway, at some point you just start rolling it. You're just gonna roll it up into a log. And is it sticky? A little bit. And I just want it to be smooth. I don't want it to start tearing. I just want it to be smooth. And it doesn't even have to be smooth. It just makes it look prettier if it's smooth. So this is what we're getting today. I plop it in my pans. I love these USA pans. They're very thick, very heavy. I've had to adjust my baking times so that they bake all the way through. Had a couple of doughy spots in those. I learned that I need to spin them around. Keeps cutting me off. I told you I'm not an influencer. Probably they have a different program they use, or maybe they just record it and then upload it. I don't know. So I'm just kind of rolling this around like Play-Doh to pick up the rest of the flour off the counter. And then I'm going to roll it up the short end like this, because as I do this, it kind of stretches out a little bit. And I kind of tuck the ends in so I don't have wonky looking loaves on the end. But it's really, you don't even have to be perfect. You could just throw this blob in there. But I was saying, I did learn that I need to turn my pans around, like spin them around in the oven halfway through baking to make sure that the sides that are sitting next to each other also get spun around and get lots of heat and cooked all the way through. So hopefully that solved my problem with just the doughy spot. If I get a doughy spot, it's not like there are eggs or milk or anything in this. We just toast it. Sorry I'm so long-winded. I try to save some of these and upload them on YouTube so you can watch them on fast forward, but here we go. Then they're in these pans. I want it to basically fill this pan, so it's gonna take an hour or two. I'll probably put them in the oven with the oven turned off, like not turning on yet, just to give them a space where it's not drafty, just kind of keeps them there. But I kind of fill these with air, and then these little shower caps, and it gives it a little poofy shower cap to allow them to proof, hold the moisture in. It's super dry here in Utah. These may proof faster. Today it's supposed to be like 85 degrees. I mean, snow last week, 85 this week, why not? Anyway, if I want them to proof faster than that, I could turn the light on in the oven. It provides just enough heat to create like a little proofing box. Well, this is what happens when I forget about them. And instead of almost filling the pan, they've totally filled the pan. And it's gonna be fine. But, so I'm just gonna score them and preheat the oven. I've just been doing this like, just kind of a long score. And I go over it a few times so it's deep enough to really let the steam out. And then I like to do just some fun slashes on the other side. Do the same thing to this guy. And then into the oven they go. I do it at 375 for 35 minutes. Like I said, I'll spin these around in the oven halfway through so that they don't have any doughy spots. Here we are again. I didn't bake the bread last night. Doing it this morning. How do people use these? Mine is not like bendable. If you know anything about these and what am I supposed to like bend it? How do people get these to bend to scrape things? I just use it to cut my dough in half when my other one's dirty. Okay, I've heard that when it comes out pretty clean, that's a good sign that it's ready. If it's not coming out clean, apparently it's not ready yet. Whether or not that's true, I like that since mine came out fairly clean. It's really cold. The dough is really cold. Just took it out of the fridge because like I said, I didn't want to do it last night. So the fridge is my friend. At any point in my bread making, if I'm like, nope, not doing it, or I need more time, the fridge. It just goes in the fridge. It doesn't matter what stage I'm in. I used to stress and fret about when I could put it in the fridge, and now I do not. All right, and this is what happens when I cut my dough cold and I don't pay attention very well. I have these huge bubbles that made me think that was the same amount, and it's clearly not. So it's going back together to warm up a little bit, or to at least shape it a little bit better. This is what I'm like, it's very forgiving. I used to make bread with active dry yeast, and I don't feel like it was as forgiving. If I messed with the bubbles or anything, it messed up my bread. Actually, just made it into a new shape. I'll just cut this in half. I feel like I can make it a little bit more equal. You could use a scale. I have a scale. I don't feel like putting my dough on it. So I don't. So my loaves are not perfectly equal, and I don't care. Okay, also my glasses, can't stand this. They've always been like this, why I never wear these. They literally are like this. If anybody has any tips, I've tried like going like this, doesn't work. I also literally stole that from Food Nanny. I think that's where I stole it. Anyway, I feel like if it's really sticky, that helps. Maybe it doesn't. I feel like it does. So like I've got this. Also helps with shaping it for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kidding myself. Maybe I'm fooling myself to think that it helps. But also if you get it to this point and you're like, I don't like it, then just reshape it. No big deal. You could flatten it out, roll it up like that, make kind of a swirly dough like on the ends. I mean, eventually it just will all blob together anyway, but yeah, no big deal. Like this part right here is really sticky. So instead of adding more flour, I'm just like sliding it on the counter. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. Whatever, just sliding it. Whatever, plop it in the pan, call it good.